for life. Okay, so today we are carrying on with I'm going to undo my share screen and do the one that will share the entire screen. Okay, so this is Office Hour 8, which means there has been 7 editions before today's one. And today we're going to talk about financial model scenario building. It's going to be something interesting because the Excel skills that I'm going to take you through in doing this is something that you can apply in every other thing. By the way, I want you to tell me if you can hear me clearly. If my voice is really low, let me know. If it's okay, just also let me know, maybe in the chat box, so that I can be on the good level of volume throughout. So, okay. And I hope you see my screen clearly. Also, today's session is going to be, well, all sessions are always interactive, which means you can always unmute yourself and contribute. In fact, I like the section we did last week, where, though that was for the Power BI, where someone even had to share a screen and show us something from his own side. So please feel free to share your ideas, feel free to say whatsoever thoughts you have, ask your questions. If you feel that, okay, you don't want to interrupt, no problem, don't worry, you're not interrupting. Just take it as you will do in a normal class. The same way that you can interject in a class, the same way you can here. There's no, the approach for this is more of knowledge sharing. I'm not essentially going to be like talking down to people or trying to only say my own. So the more we share, the better for everyone. So just some quick normal information. For those of you who feel you want to have a structured way of learning this, you can always go to our class.yourbzedge.com and sign up for any of the courses. But more importantly is, I want you to know that there is a larger community that you can be part of. So let me just get the community link. So if you are on this community, you will always be in loop of everything we share as regards financial modeling. So I'm going to just put the link in the, great, you hear me loud and clear. I'm happy to hear that. So this is the community link. If you are on this community, you will always be in loop of all that we do. If there's any new information, if there, the different sessions we have, even recordings. I apologize, I have not sent last week's recording. This last couple of weeks has been really hectic. In fact, today I wasn't so sure if I'm going to do this session, but I'm like, no, I don't want to disappoint people, and I want to form the habit of doing it. I think the more I do it, the more my body will get used to it, because I worked till 1 p.m. yesterday, and in fact, I have a lot of workload. So I just wanted to know that if you join this community, you'll always be in the loop of everything. Then the other one I was sharing is, if you feel that you want to take a class training, I don't want this to be more of an advert, so I'm not going to say much. I'll just say, if you are interested in a class training, and there are free trainings on it, interested in a structured training, then check the courses out. Let me just check out, and there are free courses there. There are some free courses there, so you can take some free courses. If you're lucky that those free courses are enough, then that is good. Okay, so the agenda for today is, as you've seen me show here, financial model scenario building. So I already have the file I'm going to use to take us through here. So let me just increase the zoom of my screen. Again, because of those of us who have not been part of the previous sessions, so I'm just going to do a very, summary of the whole, when we say financial model, what essentially we are talking about. So a financial model is always used to show the financial state of a company, and a lot of times too, you also want to use it for the plan into the future. So at the core of every company is the income statement, which shows the profit and loss situation of the company. I hope you can see my screen clearly. Once I start with the actual demo, I'm going to zoom it more, but I just want you to see the bulk of everything at once instead of scrolling too much. So there's the income statement, which shows, okay, I want to set up, like, this company started during the lockdown, or this year anyway, and well, that's when they started ramping up production. They've always had the idea before now, but they took this year as the landmark to, as a motivation to do what they want to do, because what they are selling is face mask and sanitizer. That's what they produce and sell. Okay, so the income statement shows, how things has been and the plan into the future of how their financial profit and loss side of the financial statement will be like. So income statement shows revenue that comes in, expenses that go out that are related to the raw material, expenses that are like overhead, so general and admin expense, marketing expense, research and development, if they have other operating expense, then depreciation and amortization, and loan if they have taken loan, and if they get some money back in terms of interest from other people they've lent money to, and then the profit. The other very important aspect of it is the balance sheet, which shows the assets the company has. So they've divided into fixed asset or non-current asset, then current asset. Again, if some of these things I'm saying are kind of like above your head, do not worry, because you can always watch the previous recording to have a deeper knowledge of them. But here, what I want to cover today is something that you will understand. I just want to at least set a kind of a bigger picture of what we are doing, where it fits into. So the non-current asset or fixed asset, the current asset, all of that together make up the total asset of the company. The non-current liabilities, the current liabilities, then the equity, what is left for the owners of the company, and then together the total liabilities and equity make the total liabilities and equity, and normally they must equal. The total assets must always equal the total liabilities and equity. So there's a check line to use to check that, so that this check line you are seeing. Okay. All right. So the third major component is the cash flow statement. So the cash flow statement shows how cash, is being generated and used by the company, cash generated in the operations. So from your sales of product and expenses to support those sales, what is the cash that is left? Then from investing, so investing here is not you buy shares or you buy treasury bills, is your capital expenditure, your long-term infrastructure. So how much you have to invest in factory, production expansion, but the long-term side of it, not the the one that supports just this year's production side of it, which is covered in the operation side. Okay, so then the financing activities is related to, you raise money, you maybe as debt from banks or from investors, or as equity from investors. So all of these three categories will show at the end of the financial year what the net cash flow is. So that's just like a very quick overview of, these are the bulk of what is there in a financial statement. So these three statements, every other thing is actually every other sheet there is either they are supporting this, or except for the valuation one that is just taking it a bit further. So everything before these three sheets is to lead us to building these three sheets, right? And then today we are going to talk about to build scenarios. So that's what we want to talk about. And what you will learn from here, you can apply to other things. If you are a project manager, you can apply it to your project management stuff. If you are a financial analyst, FP&A, that you don't do modeling, you just basically do. So let me just pull up a notepad so that you can. The concept we want to talk about today, right? It's a concept that you can apply find it that if I write as I'm talking, people are able to, it sticks more in their memory. So what we want to talk about today's agenda is scenario building. Now, this scenario building, even though I'm doing it in the framework of a financial model, right? It is applicable to the following fields also. If you're a project manager, you can use this to build flexibility about incorporate flexibility in the project timing and cost. Project timing and cost. And even for resource allocation, what if they don't give you the 20-man team you want, and they give you 15? So even for resource too. So you can use this to show what will happen, if you get all the things you're asking for and everything work really fine. But what will happen if you don't get as much as you asked for, or there are some delays that are just coming that you never really expected, but it can happen. So that's why you want to put them in your model, right? So another category of person that this can be used, if I'm a technical person, so if I'm a maintenance, when we say maintenance, a lot of times it's my engineers, but it might be someone else who is not an engineer. So let me just say maintenance person, right? Officer, let me use the word officer. So you will find that, again, you want to create schedules around your maintenance. So things like, okay, when is the likely time for some things to fail? For some, let's say your maintenance are related to physical equipment, for some equipment to fail, so you want to create different timing around them. You also want to say, okay, even when you guys order for, so your procurement side of it, you want to also, the timing side of procurement, you can create scenarios around them so that you don't just go and plan with one type of figure, and then you see that when things change, you will, it always make you look as if you don't know what you are doing to the people are above you, because there's never anything that you have told them that has worked out the way you have said it. But that's normal, because when you are saying things, you are saying it with the intention of, this is how much effort, this is what you want to achieve. If I know that I can do something in 2 days, and I'm working in a company that I'm dedicated to, I will not go and tell the company, I will not tell my boss that this thing you want me to do, I will do it in 3 days. If I'm going to defend, and I know that maybe it's a competitive environment, there are other colleagues too, and all of us, we have to say our plans and say what we are committing to. If I know I can achieve it in 2 days, I won't say I will achieve it in 3 days or 4 days. I'm going to say 2 days, but that 2 days is my best scenario. Let me use that word. So that's where the word scenario begins to come in. That's like the best case. That's when everything works as planned, right? But then, if I know this thing, I can also let my stakeholders, my bosses, I can let them know that, this thing I'm saying, this is really like best case. But let's say, looking at what has happened in the past, we always know that sometimes this can happen, that can happen. So let's just say, using the, historical, from knowledge of history, what has happened in similar situations, out of like 5 or 6 times, it's only once we're able to meet with this perfect timing, that everything just fell in place as expected. 4 out of these other past times, it has always been a delay of like 3 days on. And so when you put that there, nobody is going to, they will respect you more, and more importantly, it looks closer to reality. So they are not just working with one figure in their head that you have never met and you don't meet, and so you keep adding pressure on yourself, you keep because it makes it look like you are failing the company. But by the time you have a planning tool that incorporates all of these, then as you are saying it, everybody knows that this is the best effort outcome, but then they also are aware from your model that there are two other kind of things that can happen, or even for as many scenarios as you want to put. So that's even if I'm an event planner, it's not the cost you put on paper. It's not what you realize when you go and start, when you go and start doing all the things, right? So you want to create scenarios like, okay, scenarios around your profit. So let's say, if I get these things at these prices and all of these things fall in place, my profit margin will be 30%. But then, what if costs in most of all these things have gone up 10%? How will it affect my margin? So you don't want a case where you worked with one figure and you got to the market and things are drastically different from the figures you worked with, and then you're finding that you're even making a loss. So you want to have these things, especially when you have people working with you. If you're a one-man business, you find out that, okay, you can always manage those variations in your head because you are the one at the center of it all. But when you have people working with you, where the person making procurement is different from the person interacting with the customer, you'll find out that the person making procurement just buys things, and then the person talking to the customer is now aware that he's buying at a price different from what he has put into the plan. And you see that there will be a lot of many frictions, right? And losses and leakages, that if you guys have had a planning tool where at least you've put these things there, you're able to see it ahead and know that, okay, maybe we need to adjust pricing. And so like that, anything that involves planning anyway, any rule that involves planning will benefit from what we are sharing today. We benefit from what I want to walk you through today. Okay. So are we set? Let me just check if anyone has asked any questions so far. So are we good to go? Please share. I'm sharing my desktop. Are you not seeing my desktop? Please share the Excel. Okay, please share the Excel file. Okay, I'll find out to share it. There's some aspect of it that I can't share, but I hope you all can see my screen. By the way, you can talk, you can unmute yourself, you can talk anytime if you have any question, because it's just once in a while that I'll be going to check the chat box, so it's better. Yes.
We can see your desktop.
Wow, you can't see my desktop. So what are you writing all this while? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to share it again. Oh boy. And I thought you guys were seeing it. How about now? Okay, how about now? Huh? Can you see my desktop now?
Yeah, desktop.
Okay, you are seeing the desktop even before now, right?
Yep.
Okay. If the person who said you can't see my desktop, can you now confirm if things have improved now? Because I've reset the sharing, so I'm hoping that if there was any issue before, this should have fixed it. Or say I've isolated the issue now. So if you're still having an issue, most likely it's from your end. I've gotten someone confirming that you can't see mine. All right, so 23 minutes gone. So ready? This is what I want to show you how to do, right? I'm going to create a new Excel file. So in this new Excel file, we are going to just copy what the company's plans are. So this is what the company has planned, and that's normal. If you are doing any project, that's why I said this applies to any project. So if you are doing any project, you will always have your input plan, right? You will always have the things that you plan, to the things that feed into your project, the input, the things that are. So in this case now, I hope you see my screen clearly. I'm going to try to increase the zoom of the, okay. All right, so for a financial model, which means that for a company's financial plan, right, the kind of things you want to gather is, okay, what are the products that we're going to be selling? So the product, this company is selling 4 products. Product 1, which is face mask. They are also selling hand sanitizers, which is now like product 2. They are also selling test tubes, and they are selling syringes. So these are the 4 products. Now, these 4 products, just think about it. If you had any business plan, if you had been any time in your life that you wanted to embark on a business, be it a small business, you always decide that, okay, this is what, if it's a buying and selling business, you will know this is what I want to buy and I want to sell. If it's a manufacturing, you can manufacture something, you will know, okay, this is what I want to manufacture. And then for every of those products, you can be able to envisage how many of them you're able to sell in a period. A period can be 1 month, can be in a week, can be in a year. So for financial planning, for this model I'm working on, I decided to stick to a yearly period. And then you will know how much you want to sell each one, right? And then you will also know how much it costs you to produce one, or to get one, to source for one. Okay, so like that, replicated for all the 4 products. So that is one very major segment of the inputs. What you are selling, how many you envisage you'll be able to sell within a period, how much it costs you to buy them, and how much you want to sell them for. Then there is also the expenses that you incur. Now say you have to set up like a company for this, right? Then you will have to incur some expenses that are like overhead, general and admin expenses. So again, we break those expenses down into the different categories so that it's easier to plan it. So if you know that you are renting an office, then it's better to have that line separate so that you know that whatever you agreed with the property provider, that's what you will put in your plan, in your figure for what you will spend. So that's why this is broken down instead of lumped up as just one expense line. Similarly too, for you, if you are doing even a small business that you might need to pay for a small space to put your products for display, then you will write it down and say, this is how much it will cost me. If I'm a project manager and I know that, okay, these are some of the other costs that we have to bear in executing this project, what do? I break them down. We have to pay, maybe we have to pay, if it's a construction project, we might have to pay the community, maybe it's an estate, we have to pay some fees every day for every time we go to execute the project. So everybody, regardless of your role, as long as you're doing planning, there will be some expenses that are a bit different from your core expenses, from the core thing. I mean, construction, my core expenses could be the iron rod, all those things that we definitely must buy to execute the project, right? But then there will be some ancillary costs. I probably even need to hire some people and pay them, even though they are not going to be directly working on it, it could be maybe I need to hire someone as a personal assistant. And so, but for a company, sometimes too, you need to have marketing. So that's why there's this marketing expense. And then there's the research and development. So they start. So this, anyway, I will share this sheet. So this will be really good so that I don't talk too much about what is not so important to what we want to do. So I want to show us that if I'm a thorough person, I'm going to want to create scenarios around the very important aspect of my projects. So the inputs or the parameters of the project. So let's say these are the project parameters, or in this case, the financial model. So, but just so that you understand that this goes beyond just the financial model, the concept. All right. So for me, I want to identify what are the things that are super important. The things that if I'm building a house, the price of paint, I'm not going to be worried about it compared to the price of cement, compared to the price of iron rod. So if I'm going to create scenarios, I'm not going to be creating scenarios around how much is a bucket of paint. Okay, let's say a bucket of paint is selling for 10,000 naira. What if the price goes up to 12,000 naira? Or what if I'm able to even get it at some discounted rate at, say, maybe 9,000 naira? In the scheme of things, right, of all the 200 different kind of things that we need to buy for building a house. Paint is not important. Paint is not in the topmost priority of what I'm going to worry about the price of, right? So you want to pick what are those major drivers or inputs, if that's the terminology you want to use, or parameter. So that's what you create scenarios around. So the major drivers or major inputs or major parameters in your project or in your model, right? Those are the things you want to create scenarios around. So let's together identify if you are selling, these are the things that are going to bring you revenue. These are the 4 things you are selling. So definitely everything about them is important. So how much you're able to produce, how much you're able to sell them for, and how much you're able to buy the raw materials at, right? So what do I do as regarding scenarios, right? So just so that I maintain a consistent look, I'm going to copy this beginning part here and come over this part here and come here and paste it so that I get, since they are not the same. What is not the same about what I copied? So 1 to 3. Right. So now I'm going to increase the zoom of my screen. Again, you can always interject, you can interrupt me. If anybody has dropped a question and it's looking like I'm going beyond where you want me to address the question, you can say, oh, you don't have to wait until I go and read the chat box. You can interject and ask your question. So what do I want to do? I want to make it possible for the planning purpose, or wherever I'm going to use my model, or if it's me who will use it, I want to be able to make it possible that I can capture different scenarios. Something like this is what we want to create. But the concept is super important. Once you know how to do it, you understand the concept, which is what I've explained, and also how to execute it in Excel. You can do it for anything, right? So see, I want to create something like this where I will say, okay, you know what? I can put in as many as 3 or many. You can put more than 3. Just that in financial model, it's become almost like a de facto rule to do 3. But in real life, people do more than 3. Even in project finance, they do a lot more than 3. But I just want to keep things simple. Let's just stick to 3. Okay. So I want to create like, okay, these are the different scenarios. Let's go see how we do that. So I'm going to say, you know what? I want you to be able to select scenarios. And then for these scenarios that I want you to select, I want to create a drop down. You can drop down is of all the options possible, right? Drop down is still the neatest that I've seen. Some people do data validation, but let me just do the one that, you know, if you need to know just one, it's better you know this one I want to do. So I want to do drop down. So I go to developer. If you can't see developer in your own Excel, right? It's not a problem. Just go to file. If you go to file, don't worry too much about the steps because this thing will be recorded, right? So if you go to file, you go to options. When I say don't worry, don't try to memorize the steps, just follow along and get the concept. So if I go to options, I'm going to go to customize ribbon, and then on this right side, I'm going to enable developer tab. So most likely in your own, what has happened is this is probably unchecked. So all you just need to do is check it. Once you check it, you know, you will start to have developer tab in yours. So because I have it, I don't need to do that. All right, so I'm in developer tab. Then I go to insert and I say I want to put a combo box. It's functionally the same as drop down anyway. So combo box, right? I pick it and then I draw something of this size. Okay. So once I've drawn it, you know, I need it to be populated with stuffs, right? Right now it's not populated with anything. So what do I want? I want to say I have So let me just show you the concept so that once you see I have different scenarios here. And the thing is, these scenarios that I have, I actually did something. Let's look for what I did. See, I actually did something to capture the names and somewhere else to capture what you pick. Okay, so let's go and do that, right? So it's not too important where you do it as for function, but it's because it's something that you don't want people going to touch and changing, mistakenly. So usually I try to put it a bit far from my main model. Sometimes some people put it in a separate sheet and hide the sheet. But in this case, I want you to see what I'm doing. So I'm not going to be creating it in a separate sheet and hiding the sheet. So I'm just going to come here and say, okay, we can even call our own a different name. We can say, there's going to be a best case, there's going to be a base or middle case, and then there's going to be a worst case. Right? If you have different other names, you can say maybe this is going to be Emeka's case. So maybe everybody's having different ideas, and you want to say this is Emeka's idea. If his idea pans out, what will happen? This is a Julian's idea. Maybe this is Jane's idea. So it's not so important that you follow exactly the naming I'm using. What's important is what makes sense for your own, right? So now that I've written that, I'm going to right click on this and say I want to format the control. So I want to make it to have the kind of things I want. And once I do that, it shows this input range. So I'm going to say, as for input range, the input is these different scenario cases, right? You can have more than 3. You can have as many as you want, but I want to limit it to 3 for this demonstration purpose. So once I pick it and I say, okay, that's it. That is it. Then for the length, cell link. So this is where you want to capture the answer the person has picked. So I'm giving you like 3 options. And whenever you pick an option, what cell? So you see this cell link, I'm going to say, okay, I want this cell here. Again, it can be any cell. It's not important that it has to be the cell just beside the names of the scenario. So it's just me choosing to do the cell beside it. Okay, and then that's all. You can change this if you want, but most times it's not so important, so I don't bother about the number of lines, these eight lines, how many options it shows you at once. So I'm going to just go ahead and say okay, and immediately I now have a scenario box that I can pick options from. So if I pick best case, what happens is that see, this is showing 1, and if I pick worst case, it should show 3 because worst case is option number 3. So let's go verify that. See, it's showing 3. So that we are getting there gradually. So what are the inputs that I want to create scenarios around? I want to create scenarios around, so I don't want to type too much. So I'm just going to copy this. So I want to create scenarios around these 4 products. So I come back here. And I paste. Okay. So now the thing is that for product 1, I want to say there are 3 possible outcomes. So I'm going to come in here, right click and insert. So I want to say there are 3 possible outcomes, right? 3 possible scenarios. If you see in this one that I showed you before, can you see that I created and said, but I'll do them from scratch anyway. I just want you to have an idea of what the end result is going to look like. So I'm going to say for volume and weight, I'm going to, let me just create some additional columns so that I have enough space to write. So I'm going to insert. I'm going to say shift cells to the right, so that's good. So I have space to write and say there's optimistic, there's best case, there's so all those things I want to write anyway. So I'm going to say best case, what happens? So best case, in the base case, what happens? And in the worst case, what is the outcome? And this the same pattern that I want to replicate also for unit price. So I'm going to post this, paste this beneath. So insert cell, okay. And I'm also going to do likewise for this one, for unit cost. Okay, and then let me just check time before I need to go a bit faster. So I will say that the screen is looking a bit wide apart. Huh? Okay, we'll shift our notes a bit to the, so that we don't have too much gaps. So I'm just going to say, shift this a bit. I will shift it afterwards. Okay, so now I can use that base case. I can say base case comes from the model. So I can say this is directly coming . So from input sheets. So I can say the base case is coming from input sheet. So what that means is that I'm just going to say this is equal to what it was in the parameters. Okay, parameter sheet. Parameter sheet, this cell. Pick it, right? And now I drag that one all the way to the right. I think I mistakenly copied some figures along. So let's just delete all these figures so that we know we are doing our own from scratch. So I copy all of that and say that is the middle case. Okay. So what I have done is I've used what we put in our original plan as that's, you know, base case. Maybe, you know, that's what is reasonable. But then, you know, I can be like, we can be able to produce, what if we're able to produce ramp up production faster, you know? So what if instead of 500,000 units, we're able to produce, you know, maybe 20% more, you know, we're able to achieve a higher factory capacity utilization in the first year. So I'm like saying, what if we're able to do, you know, what if we're able to do base case plus 20%. So we're able to do 20% more than what we have in our original plan. And then what if we're, worst case, you know, something really bad happens and we are not able to meet up our production target. Let's say we are 30% below production target. Okay. So with that in need, how do I create the formula that will capture that? So it's just this. So that means this is going to be the base case plus, 20% of it, right? 20%. There's a faster formula to use, but now I would rather use what you can easily understand than what is just faster to type. So that's me capturing what I've said there, right? And then for the worst case, what if, we are 30% below our target? So now that I've done this, I just drag them here, and it will capture all those different scenarios, right? Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is based on what you pick here. So if you pick worst case, then that is the value that you apply. So the formula we need to use is, there are more than one formulas that can do this, but the one that I found easiest to type and even maybe explain is this index. So I'll be like, okay, you can see the name array. So what is the array of options? These are the different array of options, right? Then what is the actual option that is selected? So the actual option selected, is this, but remember that we are tracking the position. So if you pick worst case, you should use the third option. If you pick best case, you should use the first option. So where that number is here. So if you remember when we were doing the combo box, this is that stuff that is tracking it. So I just type the formula. I've picked it, so I do close bracket and enter. And this is what I now drag. And from this moment onwards, every time you choose a scenario here, so let me just unzoom, right? Anytime you come here and you choose a scenario, these figures will always reflect, these figures here, they will always reflect the scenarios that you've chosen. And so what that means is, if I have another sheet here that is supposed to capture our revenue, right? And revenue, as we all know, so as we all know, revenue is a combination of the product, starts with the face mask. Anyway, I can always type the product again. So let me just increase my zoom. So we know revenue is a combination of the volume you produce and at the price you sell at. Okay. So if we now take advantage of what we have done and say, based on these, let me copy everything up to here so that things I don't have to retype, right? So you're going to see how this begins to flow into every aspect of our model. Okay, so now I want to do like a revenue, do like a calculation of the revenue. And no longer will I be using the figure that I typed, like, this is what I think will happen. What will I be using? I'll be using the figures that is coming based on the scenario that we've picked. So I'll say this is equal to the figure that is coming from this scenario, these scenarios, right? Right? And if you drag it, you will see that it is showing for year 2020 600,000 units. And you know what? That's because we are in best case. It's best case that has that 600,000 units for. If we change it to worst case, right, which is now 350,000 units, guess what? Here, it will have changed to 300. So all of my calculations going forward keeps reflecting that change. And that is what you are experiencing you're experiencing here. The fact that the moment someone comes here and changes the scenario, all those changes will flow into here, the revenue sheet, will flow into cost of sales, will flow into everything, even down to the income statement, into the revenue we'll make. So in your own case, if you're a project manager, it will flow into the entire project outcome in terms of cost, duration, and every other thing you are tracking. And if I'm an event planner, it will show me in the end how much is my margin that I will make, right? So have you gotten the big concept to it? Let's just complete this one then, and then we go to questions. So I'm just going to just finish off for this. So in this case, it will be face mask is the product one. And what am I trying to capture? I'm trying to capture what the revenue is. Okay, so revenue is the important thing I want to capture. And so what do? I do likewise for unit price. So unit price, again, because of time, I will just stick to all of this. So what do? I'm just going to copy all what we've done here, or let me just do it again so that you remember. So I'm just going to say, okay, this is equal to what originally we planned as price, and that I drag all the way to the right, and then this is going to be equal to, what if we're able to set a price that is 20% higher, so 20% higher than the base price, okay? And that one too, I drag to the right, and then this one is equal to what if something happens and we just have to drop our price to achieve the kind of sales we want. So we drop price by 30%. It's a very bad thing anyways. Maybe we should not use 30% in this case. Let's say 10%, because let's say 10%. So at least you will know that you can use any figure you like. So this, what if we have to drop price by 10%? Minus this times 10%. Okay. And that becomes the price in the worst case, right? And then, like I said before, the formula that easily allows me to track what you have picked as an option and apply it is this index. You can use choose also, but index is kind of straightforward by my own judgment anyway. So I'm going to go and pick the thing that tracks the option you have selected, and then I do close brackets. Okay, so you've seen the formula, and I do this and I drag it to the end. Maybe just make it bold again, so and you know what that means? It means that the revenue that my bosses will be looking at is linked to that. So let's go and link it. So every time they're like, okay, what if things don't go well? I'll say, don't worry, just come here, let's change the scenario. And they change it, pam, and instantly everything flows into the outcome. And you're like, this is awesome. So we can see the range of outcomes that, we need to plan against or have in mind. So with this done, you can just easily compute the revenue. So computing the revenue, everybody knows the formula when you have the volume times the per unit price, right? So that gives you the revenue. And let me just make it comma style. I drag this to the end. So this revenue will always be changing based on the scenario that is being used. So that's what I mean by your outcome, your planning becomes more robust because everything is now linked to whatever scenario someone picks here. So if I pick worst case scenario instantly, sorry, best case scenario instantly, the revenue here would have changed to reflect. See, oh my god, how is price that crazy high for? All right, so I didn't drag this one. I think that's
No, there was a little mistake on the formula there. Excuse me.
Oh, okay, I did it. Thanks for that. This one should have been the okay. Well, I was wondering how come that is really high. So we have come to the end of my demonstration for scenario building, and I've tried to let you understand that you don't have to be a financial modeler before you start using this in your own planning. Anybody who does planning, well, planning that relates to numbers, you are going to find this practically useful. So any questions? Any questions? Let me try to go and check the Q&A side. So we are having just 5 more minutes to the end of it all. All right. So as for the Excel file, let me just save that Excel file right now. But I don't go and delete it. I'm going to save it as scenario manager or scenario based planning. Okay. Office hour 8. So I will save it in. Let me do the one that everybody can share. Can see. So I'll save it in OneDrive. Then I'll try to get us the share link. So let's see the share link. So that way I can share it right now, because these days I'm becoming unreliable with getting to share the documents on time with you via email. So I can just grab the share link and send to us all. Any questions, any opinions? Anybody already used this? Anyone with the link? I don't want you to edit to. Anybody with the link should not edit, should just view. Okay. So I'm going to copy the link now. I'm going to paste it here. So the Excel file link is, I thought I copied the link, huh? Copy. Well, when you click on it, I hope it goes to a website to that. Okay, yes. Yeah, okay, all right. That's how it shortens the link. So any question before we wrap it up? So for the person who asked, okay, Francis, you're the one who asked if it to be shared. So I've shared it. So any question, 2 more minutes to the end. Okay, so in the absence of any question, then this is where I'm going to wrap the entire session for today. And as usual, I want to advise you to always keep practicing, keep learning. And the cool thing is, keep trying to see how you can link these things. If I show you how I'm able to, let me just show you some interesting things. So I used my knowledge of Excel, mixed it with Google Sheets, some interesting thing Google Sheets has. And you know what I did? I created some things that, in the end, so if you are someone who manages investments, let me just grab the link for you. So I was able to create something that allows me to track my own investment portfolio. I'm going to give you the link of the one you can use, but I will show you my own portfolio, and you will see how this thing helps me to I have it in Chrome. That allows me to be able to see every day all the value of what the things I have in portfolio. So every day it keeps track of my investment stuffs, right? So I have investment in crypto, in some cryptocurrency, in some US shares. Every day, all I just do is whenever I buy, I just plug in the date I buy, plug in the price I buy at, and every day this thing keeps, you can see it's refreshing now. Every day it keeps refreshing what's the current price and calculates how much I have gained. So there are some formulas in there. Luckily, Google has these Google Finance formulas that can automatically pick the price for you instantly, right? So that's what I used. Microsoft is trying to do similar for Excel, but it's not yet done. So that's why I had to just come and use the Google Sheet for it. And so it automatically calculates for me my price gain, how much I have made, am I losing money? What's my portfolio allocation? So, see that one that was doing as if it was computing has done computing. It has already picked towards it. Wow, Bitcoin has gone to 11,818, $810. So you see, these are real-time prices coming directly from Google Finance, right? So, and then what did I do again? I keep track of my Nigerian stocks too, right? Though I have some other ones that are not yet here, but you see, every day too, it keeps track of the Nigerian stocks. What's the current price to update? You see here, there's a formula in here that goes and gets for me the current price. And so what I'm just trying to let you know is, all these things you are learning, even if for now you can't see, if I'm not a finance person, I can't see how all these things are going to work out for me, I can always mix it with something else. When I learned how to do all these formulas I can pick from a live, like a computer, from an internet, from a website, or from an API. I didn't know finance that period, but now I'm finding it useful. Okay, so I just want you to know that please don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't just lock your mind and like, this thing I'm learning can only apply here. I cannot use it somewhere else. And all of these I use it to see my portfolio allocation across different sectors and against my target allocation, and so stuffs like that, right? And I'll share you the link to the one that I can share so that you can use that in your own building too. Okay, so let me just share that one. So you can use this for Nigerian stocks. You can use this one for, can't find my mouse. And this one is for the portfolio, US and crypto. And cryptocurrencies. US stocks. So any comments before we wrap it up for today? Then I just felt I should chip that in. So that's the end of it for today. I have another one at 4 p.m. which is going to be on Excel. So if you're interested, you can also join us for that one. The community link is this. Let me just grab for you the community link for the Excel one. So the Excel meetup, which is going to be for 4 p.m. The community link is this. There's also financial mode, Power BI for 6 p.m. So anybody interested also in that one too can. So for Excel, at 4 p.m. today, use that to be part of it. For Power BI, at 6 p.m. today, this is the link. So thank you once again, and see you next week. And for those of you that are joining the other session, see you later today. So bye-bye. Have a nice day.